kids, welcome back to part 2 of Uncle Fezzi's Pelican Paaaaloooza. I highly recommend going back and watching part 1, even though I was told that it was hard to get through. You know, tough shit. So, what did I do? Well, I briefly glazed over what I was going to be doing to these cases in my first video. So, long story long, because every story I tell is long, I'm planning a pretty big trip in my truck across the country. And, well, you know, anytime you put luggage in the back of your car, the chances of it getting wet are about 100%. The other thing is I just ordered a roof rack for my truck. So I want to lash these things to the roof along with a bunch of other shit so I can look like I'm bouncing through the Serengeti, or just like some douchebag in a Jeep that has to have a jack on the front of his truck. And I'm going to be that guy. Mainly because I don't want it in the truck. So, what did I do? The first thing I did was I removed this hard foam that was pre-cut from the factory. That's how I got these boxes so cheap. I ordered these from a place called caseplace.com, and they came pre-cut, pre-fitted with foam. Somebody paid a lot of money for this, most likely the taxpayers, because apparently the project got abandoned. This foam ripped out of the inside of the cases relatively easily. It just required a little bit of effort and hate and popped right out. Because it was only held in with hot glue, and the hot glue only stuck in a couple places. Shocking, right? So, we don't need those anymore. Actually, what I am going to do though is I'm going to turn, this was the top of the case, I'm going to turn this into a knee pad. You know, Uncle Fezzi spends a lot of time on his knees. How do you think he gets paid? So, I went and I took all that foam out of the inside. Then, I lined the inside with a new type of foam and some carpet. Okay. So, I mentioned in my other video, because I already went over this particular box, but I ordered this organizer from Amazon, and I thought it was a Pelican product. I don't think it's a Pelican product because it's really poorly made. So I threw this one in here just because, you know, just because. Now, what did I do? I actually lined the inside of these with PVA foam and carpet. So this is actually 3mm foam. This particular case I lined with 5mm foam. One of the things with this PVA foam is it really likes to be glued together. So I sprayed the inside of them with spray adhesive. This 3M90 max strength. I talk about this particular product in one of my other videos, and this stuff really likes to burn, and not for nothing. If you want to get high as a kite, this is the stuff that you huff. I don't recommend it. It's not a good high. It makes your head hurt. Do you huff glue? And then I got this carpet from our favorite discount store, Ollie's. Now, I don't know what kind of carpet this is or where they got it from, but I'm gonna tell you what, it likes glue too. I don't think it's carpet. I think it's like a coating for something else, like roadie cases or what have you. One way or the other, the two really like each other when they're glued together. And they form really nice. So, as you can see, the inside of the box is all, that's this box. Alright, so that's box 1. Now, to box 2. I decided to do this one a little bit differently for 2 reasons. One is I'm inherently cheap, right? And I didn't want to spend another 75 bucks on something that I didn't really particularly like. Now, what I should have done was got out my sewing machine and made that, like made pockets or something for it. And I decided against that for a couple of reasons. One is my sail rate weighs about 50 pounds, and dragging it from its living space inside my house out here to work is a pain in the ass. Not to mention, I don't really think I think this is better. So this is box 2. There's something so satisfying about the click of a Pelican case. Oh, I got to talk about this too. So another thing is, and if you're not aware, I actually didn't know this until very recently, actually until I started buying new Pelican cases. Every Pelican case actually has a little slot here where you can pull it out and put a sticker on there, right? So you can label these. This is a label. Well, I busted out my handy dandy 3D printer and I printed new new labels that slide in here, and then I put a little drop of contact cement on the back side of them and slid them in. I did these in Fusion and embossed them, as opposed to what I normally do, which is I color them. I like the embossing for a lot of reasons, but you know, it came out really nice. I printed up a bunch of them, and of course the Pelican ones are different sizes than the Harbor Frights, so I had to do two. Fucking Harbor Fright. All right, so I used the same method to do this one as I did the other one. The only difference between this case and the other case is I put the foam in just a little bit lower and then glued the carpet directly to the inside of the case. So there's like a little lip in here. I don't know why I did that, other than why not, right? So this one, I have these Velcro springy things. These are actually out of tactical vests for the cummerbund to tighten up the vests. A buddy of mine on the TAC team gave me a whole shitload of them, but I could have made these too. And I had mentioned in the other videos that this stuff really likes Velcro, so I used that. The other thing I did was I have a bunch of this strapping material, literally probably 300 yards of it. So I decided to make some straps, and we're going to get to those in a second. The other thing I did was I 3D printed some stanchions, cleats, to put on the top of them. So I printed these out of ABS. These actually are printed out of ABS GF. And then I actually printed these too, because this was my first idea. So I don't know if it's going to show up on camera because of the contrast. But I printed these out. I drilled a little tiny hole in them, and then I put these hooks on the inside. And then I put the screws in. That was another thing. You have to be really careful with the depth of the screws, because you can screw right through. There's little stanchions on the inside of these that are designed to take screws, and you have to be very careful that you don't over put the screws in, because you'll poke a hole in the Pelican case and then basically you've ruined the case. So instead of printing these with a taller base, I just added this to this. I did it for a couple reasons, mainly because I didn't want to reprint everything, but also I left the hooks in on this one. And then this is just some springy shit I got. This is a bungee cord material. And my towel. Never leave home without a towel. And if you get that joke, you know not to panic. So that's case number 2. This one is just completely empty. Oh, and another thing that is kind of shocking to me. I had my first and I don't want to use the term failure, but I had my first issue with E6000. Apparently, E6000 does not like to stick to this type of polyethylene. I was shocked. One of the other labels that I had put on the Chinese case, or no, one of the other labels I put on, it was actually the Chinese case. It was this case. This originally it was gray and said Fez on it, which this one says too. I glued this on with E6000, and I didn't like the gray one, so I peeled it off. I wanted to take it off and glue the red one on because I printed out the red ones and I like the red ones better than the gray ones, and I put it on upside down. But when I went to take it off, it came off way too easy. Now that could be because this is the cheap Harbor Freight Apache brand polyethylene, which is what I'm actually kind of hoping for. But this one, I took this one off where this said recovery. These I glued on with contact adhesive, and actually when I went to take the recovery off of this one, it broke into several pieces trying to get it off, and it left some residue on the case, which I had to remove with solvent, which tends to lead me to believe that the contact cement was a much superior adhesive. The E6000 acted as a cohesive for the polyethylene on the cheap Chinese case. And it's not a big deal because I also printed the embossed labels here. Now there's a little bit of a, why am I so obsessed with putting my names on these things? Was because people like to steal luggage, basically is what it is. And if your name's all over it, then somebody stealing it is not removed, but it's a lot less it's a lot less tempting to steal something that is unique, as opposed to stealing something that's nondescript. And if somebody does snatch it, you can say, hey, that's mine. And if they say, that's not yours, it's mine, I can say, well, is your name Feathers? And do you have an embossed thing on there? And then it becomes a whole big rigmarole. And then you have some guy running around in the dress that you made. Okay, so that's this case. Now let's go to the last one, the monster. So the case that got all of this started. Again, I bought this monster off a very dear friend of mine for a great deal. It came with foam in it. This is my off-road, or this is my beach recovery case. This case doesn't go with me any other time other than when I go to the beach, or if I know I absolutely am going off-road and I'm possibly going to need extra recovery gear. So what's in here? And actually I have another one of these. It's got even more recovery gear in it because this was too heavy. So this case, I also did just a slight bit different than I did the other cases. And this thing full is almost a little bit too heavy. Ta-da! Now, this case, I installed the strapping on the inside. So I have these adjustable straps. I understand these tags are a little bit long, but there's a reason for that. And the reason being is I can remove these with a Phillips screwdriver, so if I need strapping, I have it with me. Everything I do is a multitasker, right? So if I need extra strap, if I need these straps for something, to strap something together, then I can just take out a Phillips screwdriver, which I absolutely will have with me in my truck. I can just take these stanchions out. I can just take the stanchions out and I have the straps. Now, when I cut this stuff and when I drill holes in it, I actually don't drill holes in it. I use a heat gun. So when I do that, it melts the hole and it doesn't really overly impact the structural integrity of the strapping. It does, but if I'm using the strapping for something, it's generally just going to be putting a tarp around something. So that's why I have all this extra. That's why I have all this extra. I'm also a little bit nervous about the ability of the stanchions that are molded into the case to hold any real serious weight. Because what I should do is I should have this thing strapped up in here, right? But I'm a little nervous about that. I think the most that's going to go up on air maybe like an emergency blanket or a tarp or something, because you never know when you need to cover a body. So these are the screws that I used to hold that stuff in, and I had to cut I intentionally cut the tips off of these. But these are printed out of ABS GF. There we go. And yes, this is a cheap Harbor Freight snatch chain or snatch rope, and only needs to work once. I wasn't spending $300 on a Matt's recovery rope, sorry. Love you, Matt, but I'm not spending that kind of cash on something I'm never going to use. At least I hope I don't ever have to use it. And again, I got these Velcros in here just to hold it in place. I actually have a couple more of those up in the house. I'm going to grab them and bring them down. So what's in the recovery case? So this is my snatch rope. This is a piece of the PVA foam that I lined the inside of some of the boxes with. This is actually the 10 mil stuff, which is a little bit thick. These are sandbags. These are 3,000 pound sandbags. I'm not going to unwrap them because the day I need to use these is going to be a really shitty day. So I'd like to keep them as tight as I can. The idea behind these is when you're out on the beach and you don't have a picket, you have two options. One is to dig a hole, bury your spare tire, and hope that the spare tire, and then fill the hole back in and hope the spare tire holds you in place. The other thing you can do is you can dig a hole, throw this bag in the hole, and then fill it back up, and this will hold you in place. This is an old bag for a chair, but it's made out of this really heavy Cadora material. This is to protect my cables and ropes and straps. When and if I ever need this thing, basically what I'll do is I'll just whip out my handy dandy pocket knife and cut it up. I have two extra snatch straps. These are a little sketchy, so I threw them in the extra bag. I actually have new ones in the truck, good ones. This is a hunk of extra carpet for the same reason as the bag. If you want to protect your rope from something, it's a little bit extra carpet. You can wrap it around a rope. You can wrap it around whatever to protect whatever you're pulling off of. A towel. Never leave home without it. And an extra pulling strap. Oh, and two metal D-ring shackles. I actually had metal snatch blocks in here. Snatch block. And I took them out because they were ungodly heavy and I don't need them. I have soft shackles and I have donuts that I can use for recovery, which is the new hotness and the preferred method than the old school shit that I used to use when I was doing recovery work for a living. So that's it. That's Uncle Fezzi's Pelican Paaaaloooza. You know, again, this is art imitating life. If you don't know, I need to keep pressing this issue. I wrote a book. It's called Love Letters. It's a post-apocalyptic speculative science fiction novel about three women who are trapped behind enemy lines, and at the end of the story, which is actually 5 books long, one of them takes over the world, and she's a ruthless killer by the time she's done. Thanks for watching, and we'll have some more updates on some more Pelican cases as the project moves along. I also have another project in the works, which I have not shot a whole lot of video on, but I'm going to shoot some video on it as the project comes to fruition, which is a shuffleboard, a custom-built, custom-made shuffleboard for a friend of mine. There we go. Thanks for watching.